I'm Kinsley Burke. 1 year after both my grandparents passed away, one suddenly the other after a long battle with cancer, I decided to renovate their old A-frame house in Asheville to put it on the market. I was driving up the winding mountain road to check on the progress when my phone rang. It was Tom Harlan, the contractor I'd hired. His voice was low and tense. "Ms. Burke, we just broke through a false wall in the loft and found a locked digital box hidden behind it. Your sister's name, Amara Burke, is engraved right on the top. You need to get here as soon as possible. But please don't come alone. Call your parents and your sister and have them come with you." My stomach dropped. I pulled over on the narrow road, hands shaking as I dialed everyone, telling them only that something urgent had come up about Grandma and to meet me at the house immediately. When we all arrived and gathered in the dusty loft surrounded by sawdust and tools, we stood around that small black box lying on the floor. No one spoke. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. Whatever was inside wasn't just some forgotten keepsake. In that moment, staring at my sister's name etched on the lid, I knew whatever we were about to find would turn everything I thought I knew about my family completely upside down. I still get chills thinking about that instant. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know, where are you watching from right now, and what time is it where you are? Have you ever received a single phone call that changed the way you see the people closest to you forever? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. The old A-frame house sits perched on the side of a mountain just outside Asheville, North Carolina, surrounded by tall pines that sway in the wind almost year-round. Growing up, my younger sister Amara and I spent every summer there with our grandparents. We'd race up the steep wooden stairs to the loft, turning it into our secret clubhouse, complete with old blankets draped over beams to make forts and flashlights for late-night storytelling sessions that lasted until Grandma called us down for dinner. The big triangular windows gave us panoramic views of the Blue Ridge Mountains stretching out endlessly, and on clear days we could spot hawks circling high above or watch storms roll in from miles away. Winter visits felt cozier. We'd all crowd around the stone fireplace downstairs, roasting marshmallows on long forks, while Grandpa repeated his favorite fishing tales from the nearby streams, exaggerating the size of the trout every time. Grandma Gertrude would sit in her worn armchair nearby, knitting scarves or quietly reviewing client folders, her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. Grandma was a retirement financial advisor, the kind who helped seniors navigate trusts, annuities, and estate planning to protect their life savings. She often met clients right in the house, using the small den off the living room as her workspace. I'd peek in sometimes and see her explaining complex forms in plain language, making sure widows or retirees understood every detail before signing anything. In her later years, Dad Carl started visiting more frequently. He'd arrive unannounced, pulling her aside for private talks about investment ideas or specific client situations. His voice stayed smooth and charming, but I noticed how his gaze sharpened when she mentioned certain accounts or portfolios. She'd change the subject quickly, reminding him about confidentiality rules, though he'd press just a little longer each time. The loft shifted during those final years. Suddenly it was off-limits, the door locked with a new deadbolt no one remembered installing. Amara and I were in our 20s by then, visiting less often, so we didn't question it much. We assumed Grandma needed privacy as her health declined, or wanted to store medical equipment up there without us kids. Well, grandkids tripping over it. Grandpa's sudden heart attack hit everyone hard when I was 28. He was gone in an instant, no warning. Grandma fought the cancer diagnosis that followed for another full year, determined to stay independent in the house she loved. She grew frailer, spending hours in that same armchair by the fire, but her mind stayed clear. She handled her own affairs right up until the end, updating her will to leave the property directly to Amara and me. No complicated trusts since we were adults, and her only direct heirs under North Carolina inheritance laws. Amara clung to the idea of preserving the place exactly as Grandma left it, a shrine to our childhood summers and holiday gatherings. She's always been the emotional one, keeping boxes of old letters and holiday ornaments like they're sacred. But reality set in fast. The house sat empty, racking up taxes and maintenance costs we couldn't ignore. I'd built a steady marketing career in Charlotte, a solid 3-hour drive southeast through the mountains, and was saving for stability. Amara, teaching preschool near Asheville, struggled more post-divorce single mom life on a modest salary, renting a cramped apartment that barely fit her and the kid. Letting the property deteriorate felt irresponsible. I pushed for renovation, update the loft into an airy modern space with skylights and polished beams to appeal to buyers seeking that rustic chic vibe popular in the area. Selling would split the proceeds fairly, giving her breathing room for debts or a small home, and me a boost toward my own goals. That's how Tom Harlan's team got the job. His company specializes in mountain homes, dealing with steep roofs, humidity damage, and those tricky A-frame angles that regular contractors botch. We walked through together, initially mapping priorities, starting with the loft for maximum impact on listings. The crew began a few weeks prior, stripping old paneling and prepping for new drywall. During that visit, I spotted Grandma's armchair still tucked in the loft corner, fabric faded but intact. The side drawers showed faint pry marks around the lock scratches that hadn't been there before. She'd once casually mentioned misplacing a few unimportant papers amid treatment side effects, brushing it aside when I asked. It seemed minor, then just another quirk of her declining health. Heading up the mountain that morning for a routine check, excitement mixed with bittersweet feelings. The house embodied joy and loss, intertwined, lazy summer days chasing fireflies, Thanksgiving dinners with extended family, quiet evenings, listening to records on Grandpa's old player. Renovating meant erasing some traces, but keeping it vacant honored no one. Amara reluctantly agreed, understanding the finances. Practicality won out. If only I'd known the crew's work would uncover far more than structural issues or cosmetic fixes. I couldn't wait for the others. The moment Tom hung up, I floored it the rest of the way up the mountain tires, gripping the sharp curves as leaves whipped past the windows. My mind raced faster than the car. Why my sister's name on a hidden box? Why the urgency in his voice? Why insist on bringing the whole family? By the time I pulled into the gravel driveway, the crew had cleared out of the loft to give me space. Tom met me at the bottom of the stairs, handed me gloves, and pointed upward without a word. Dust hung thick in the slanting light from the triangular windows, sawdust crunching under my boots as I climbed alone. The box sat on a tarp in the middle of the exposed beams, matte black, with a small digital keypad glowing faintly. It looked expensive, out of place among the rough pine and insulation scraps. Tom had wiped it clean, revealing the engraving on the lid, Amara Burke, in simple block letters. No date, no other marking. My hands trembled as I knelt beside it. Digital safes like this usually lock out after 3 wrong attempts, sometimes wiping contents permanently, standard security feature for protecting sensitive documents. I knew Grandma had upgraded her home security in her last years, citing identity theft concerns among her elderly clients. First try her birthday. Red light beep. Second Grandpa's birthday. Another denial. My pulse pounded in my ears. One more wrong code and it could erase everything inside forever. I closed my eyes, picturing her at the kitchen table entering passwords on her tablet, always reusing meaningful dates to avoid forgetting during chemo fog. Then it hit me, their wedding anniversary, the one she celebrated every year, with the same yellow roses delivered to the house. I punched in the numbers slowly. Green light. A soft click. The lid released. Inside lay a single envelope of heavy cream paper, her favorite stationery from the local artisan shop in downtown Asheville, and a folded note on plain white stock. No USB, no stack of files, just handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. The envelope was addressed simply, "For Kinsley or Amara, open, only if I'm gone." The seal had yellowed slightly, tape brittle from time. I sat cross-legged on the cold plywood subfloor, wind whistling through gaps in the unfinished walls, and carefully slid it open. The letter spanned 3 pages in her distinctive neat script, though shakier toward the end, ink occasionally smudged as if written in bursts between pain medication doses. My dearest granddaughters, if you're reading this, I didn't make it long enough to handle things myself. I've suspected for many months that your father Carl has been doing something terribly wrong with some of my clients' retirement funds. It started small, odd questions about accounts pushing for introductions to wealthier seniors. Then discrepancies appeared in statements I reviewed for friends. Money moved in ways that didn't add up, always routed through entities I couldn't trace quickly. The worst part? Every suspicious transaction I've found so far ties back to information only available under Amara's name. Her social security number, old addresses, even forged signatures that look disturbingly close to hers. I don't yet have ironclad proof of how deep this goes, or exactly how he's managing it, but the pattern is clear enough to terrify me. If authorities ever investigate, Amara would be the first person flagged, because everything points to her identity. I've been gathering what I can printouts call logs, bank alerts, but my strength is fading faster than expected. The second sheet has login details for a secure cloud folder where I've uploaded copies. A colleague is helping me keep it updated when I can't. Use it carefully. Please, whatever you do, protect your sister. Don't let her take the fall for something she knows nothing about. I wanted to confront Carl directly, force the truth, but the cancer won that race. I'm so sorry I couldn't finish this for you both. All my love forever, Grandma Gertrude. The words blurred as tears welled up. She'd carried this alone, shielding us while her body failed. Guilt, anger, confusion crashed together. How long had she known? Why not tell me sooner? What exactly had Dad done? The wind picked up outside, rattling loose shingles on the roof, mirroring the storm starting inside me. I folded the letter carefully, slipped the cloud credentials into my pocket, and sat there on the dusty floor, staring at the empty box that had just shattered the foundation of everything I thought I understood about our family. The drive back to Charlotte felt endless, the mountain roads giving way to interstate traffic as dusk settled in. My mind replayed Grandma's words over and over, the shaky handwriting, the unfinished suspicions, the plea to protect Amara. By the time I unlocked my apartment door in the uptown high-rise, exhaustion mixed with dread. I set the letter on the kitchen table, poured a glass of water, and opened my laptop. The cloud login credentials stared back from the folded note, a simple URL and password combining her wedding anniversary with a phrase she'd always used for secure files, Secure Nest 1958. Logging in took seconds. The dashboard loaded slowly, a basic service she'd likely set up with help, nothing fancy, just a folder labeled For Family Review. No polished organization here. Files scattered like she'd uploaded them in haste between doctor appointments and rest periods. Several were corrupted videos cut off mid-sentence, scans pixelated from shaky hands or poor lighting. Clearly, her illness had made the process grueling. Chemo sessions left her too weak for long tech sessions. First folder held scanned handwritten notes from client meetings. Pages dated over the past 3 years showed her meticulous style client names, retirement amounts, investment types. But red flags jumped out: certain accounts missing from her official records, cross-reference to online banking portals she'd accessed. One entry noted a widow's $500,000 nest egg transferred to an unfamiliar LLC. Another mentioned a retired couple's annuity cashed out prematurely, funds rerouted through a shell account. Deeper in came bank screenshots, blurry from phone photos taken in dim rooms. Transfers traced back to accounts bearing Amara's full name and social security number, forged signatures visible even in low res, her maiden name misspelled once, like a sloppy attempt. The pattern emerged: small diversions at first, building to larger sums over time. Grandma had annotated some with sticky note scans, Why Amara's info client denied authorizing. Then the audio file's short video call recordings time-stamped during her final months. Lois Cole, her longtime colleague from the financial advisory firm downtown, must have guided the setup. The files used a secure app for remote recording, probably to avoid detection. I clicked the first one. Grandma appeared on screen, pale and frail in her hospital bed, set up at home. Voice, weak, but probing. "Carl, about Mrs. Harlan's account, the one you recommended to her son. She says funds vanished. Explain again." Dad's face filled the other half home office background with his golf trophies. He laughed it off at first. "Mom, you're mixing things up with the meds. I just advised on diversification." But she pressed, feigning confusion from painkillers. "The routing shows Amara's details. Why her SSN?" He hesitated, then slipped. "It's nothing, just a placeholder account for routing. She doesn't need to know." The call cut abruptly. File incomplete. Another recording weeks later, Grandma listing specific transfers. Dad grew defensive. "Those clients trusted me through you. It's business." A pause. Then his voice lowered. "Amara's info was convenient, clean record. No questions." Grandma's sigh filled the speaker's, heartbreaking. He didn't confess outright, but the evasions painted the picture he'd exploited her client trust, siphoned retirement savings meant for nest eggs or medical funds, masking trails under Amara's identity to shift blame if caught. Under federal law like the Elder Justice Act, identity theft in financial fraud carries severe penalties, especially targeting seniors up to 20 years if proven systemic. I pieced it together myself, where files broke off, cross-checking dates with public record searches on my phone. One victim, a retired teacher, lost her entire pension fund. Another, a veteran, his VA benefit supplement. All connected to Dad's consulting side gig he'd bragged about at family dinners. The emotional weight hit hard, Grandma compiling this alone, her advisor ethics, clashing with maternal instinct to avoid accusing her own son without bulletproof evidence. North Carolina's elder abuse reporting mandates required professionals like her to flag suspicions, but family ties complicated it. False reports could backfire legally. By midnight, eyes burning from the screen glow, the betrayal crystallized. Dad hadn't just erred, he'd systematically used his mother's network, forging paths that pointed straight to Amara. The incomplete files frustrated me, missing links in transaction chains, garbled audio from bad connections, but enough remained to demand action. Lois's involvement made sense now. She'd probably coached Grandma on secure backups, knowing the risks of digital trails under privacy laws like HIPAA for health-related finances. Shutting the laptop. I paced the small living room, streetlights flickering through blinds. The pieces fit too neatly, too cruelly. Tomorrow I'd call Lois for clarity, but tonight, the truth settled like lead. Our family harbored a secret destroyer. I texted Amara that morning, asking her to meet at the little independent coffee shop on Patton Avenue in downtown Asheville, the one with the mismatched chairs and strong espresso we'd favored since college. She replied quickly, suggesting lunch hour since her preschool shift ended early. Driving up from Charlotte again, the familiar route through the Swannanoa Gap felt heavier this time, every mile closing the gap between suspicion and confrontation. Amara arrived first, already at a corner table with 2 lattes waiting. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes from juggling teaching and single parenting, but smiled when she saw me. We hugged longer than usual, the kind that lingers when something unspoken hangs in the air. I wasted no time once we sat. Pulling out my phone, I showed her screenshots from the cloud folder, the forged account statements bearing her name, the transfer trails leading away from elderly clients Grandma had trusted. Her face drained of color as she scrolled. At first, denial. "This can't be right, Kins. Someone hacked my info or something." Then confusion, flipping through images faster. I let her process, sipping my drink while she pieced it together. Slowly, memories surfaced. Wait. Those weird bank letters I got years back asking for verification on accounts I never opened. I thought they were scams, shredded them. She paused on a blurry signature scan. And those emails during the divorce, my ex waving printouts at me accusing me of hiding money. He said my credit was tanked because of secret debts. I swore it wasn't me. The more she talked, the clearer it became. Dad had timed everything perfectly, opening lines of credit in her name, right as her marriage-strained maxing cards she never held, tanking her score so loans for a bigger place or car became impossible. Her ex, convinced she lied about finances, walked out citing irresponsibility. Child support battles dragged because judges saw delinquent accounts on her record. Even job offers fell through background checks flagging fraud alerts tied to her social security number. Amara's hands shook holding the phone. Shock shifted to something fiercer. All this time, I blamed myself, bad choices, poor money management. Turns out someone deliberately sabotaged me. Her voice cracked, anger rising. We paid the bill and left, deciding fresh air might help. Instead of heading home, I suggested a detour. One victim's name stood out in Grandma's notes. Mrs. Evelyn Whitaker, 83, widowed school principal, who'd lost nearly $400,000 meant for grandchildren's college funds. The assisted living facility sat on the outskirts, a low brick building with manicured gardens popular among Asheville retirees. We checked in at the front desk explaining we were relatives of a former advisor seeking to follow up on financial matters. Staff led us to a sunlit common room where Mrs. Whitaker sat by a window, knitting a scarf despite arthritis-swollen fingers. She welcomed us warmly, eyes lighting when I mentioned Grandma Gertrude. Such a sharp lady, always looked out for us old folks. I eased into it, showing printed summaries, careful not to overwhelm. Her expression darkened, recalling meetings with a consultant recommended by Grandma, polite man in his 50s, sharp suit promising higher yields on conservative investments. He used the name Charles Benton, said he partnered with your grandmother's firm. Multiple visits, signed forms, funds transferred. Then silent statements showing zero balances. I called Gertrude frantic. She promised to investigate, but her health. Tears welled. Never recovered the money. Had to downsize dreams for the grandkids. When I asked if she'd ever dealt directly with Amara, she shook her head firmly. Never met or spoke to anyone by that name. All contact through Mr. Benton. Confirmation hit Amara like a wave. She gripped my hand under the table, knuckles white. Mrs. Whitaker's story matched the files, exactly same amounts, same timeline, same false assurances. Leaving the facility. Amara walked straighter, fury replacing self-doubt. Years of scraping by, explaining away failures to friends, doubting her own competence, all engineered. The visit transformed her from stunned recipient of bad news into someone ready to fight back. In the parking lot, she turned to me. We can't let this stand, whatever it takes. I dialed the number listed in one of Grandma's cloud notes the next morning, heart pounding as it rang. A warm but cautious voice answered, Lois Cole speaking. I introduced myself as Gertrude's granddaughter, mentioned the hidden files, and asked if she had time to talk. She paused, then suggested we meet in person. These things are better face to face. We arranged to connect at her office in downtown Asheville that afternoon, a small financial planning suite she'd shared with Grandma years ago. Lois greeted me at the door, silver hair pulled back, eyes sharp behind rimless glasses. She led me to a quiet conference room with views of the Blue Ridge Parkway traffic below. Coffee steamed between us as I laid out printed summaries, careful selections, avoiding full victim names to protect privacy under federal guidelines. Her expression tightened reading the annotations. Gertrude confided bits and pieces, she said, voice low. We argued fiercely about it. I pushed her to go straight to authorities. Elder financial exploitation is a reportable offense for advisors under SEC and state rules. But she refused, terrified any premature move would backfire on Amara. Lois explained the heated exchanges, Grandma insisting on more proof to avoid false accusations against family Lois, countering that delays risked more victims losing life savings. She wanted an airtight case so investigators would see the framing immediately. Identity theft layered over fraud makes the innocent party here your sister, the initial suspect in many probes. Lois had helped set up the cloud account precisely for backups, teaching Grandma basic encryption tools during lunch breaks. I knew her health was slipping. We raced against time. She leaned forward. You're doing the right thing now. I still consult on cases with an IRS special agent focused on elder fraud schemes, Agent Harlan Reyes. He's handled similar identity theft rings targeting retirement assets. With my permission, she called him directly, putting the phone on speaker. Reyes's voice came through calm and professional. Ms. Cole's referred cases are always solid. Send what you have through our secure portal. I'll review tonight. Uploading the intact files from home that evening felt surreal. Bank trails, audio clips, handwritten lists, now in official hands. Reyes called back quickly. The evidence impressed him, clear patterns of unauthorized transfers totaling over $1.8 million across 6 victims, all routed through accounts bearing Amara's credentials. Strong for prosecution, he said, but the framing is sophisticated. Without careful presentation, standard protocol flags, the name holder first. Your sister could face subpoenas or freezes before we pivot to the real perpetrator. He outlined risks under federal wire fraud statutes if Dad claimed ignorance or pinned it fully on forged docs. Amara's clean explanation might not hold initially without his direct admission. We need him on record acknowledging control. Reyes suggested a controlled setting, family gathering where conversation could be legally recorded under North Carolina's one-party consent law for felony investigations. No warrants needed if I hosted and consented. Lois joined the follow-up call, brainstorming logistics. The house in Asheville provided neutral ground tied to Grandma's estate for plausible cover. We crafted the invitation, a group text, claiming workers found additional paperwork in the loft, old trust amendments requiring signatures to finalize probate distribution. North Carolina probate can drag with unsigned addendums, making the excuse believable. Mom and Dad would drive up from their suburb outside Charlotte. Amara lived close enough for a day trip. Reyes coached subtlety, keep discussion, natural steer toward Grandma's client concerns without accusation, let Dad fill silences, backup audio via my phone in plain sight, no hidden devices to avoid interception laws. Agents would monitor remotely, ready to intervene if escalation warranted safety protocols. The plan crystallized over hours. Arrive early, position seating for clear recording, have escape phrases if tension spiked. Hanging up relief mixed with nerves. Lois squeezed my hand. Gertrude would be proud you're finishing what she started. Stakes felt immense: justice for victims' protection, for Amara, confrontation with the man who'd raised me. But delay wasn't an option. More time meant more risk of Dad covering tracks. The weekend arrived with crisp mountain air and clear skies, perfect for the drive up from Charlotte. Mom and Dad pulled in first, their SUV loaded with overnight bags, since they'd decided to stay rather than commute back the same day. Amara showed up shortly after, parking her older sedan beside the gravel path. We gathered in the living room, sunlight streaming through the large windows onto the stone fireplace that hadn't been lit in years. I positioned the laptop on the coffee table screen, facing everyone, phone propped nearby for backup audio, legal under state rules, since I was participating and consenting. Conversation started: light updates on work, Amara's preschool class, Mom's garden club. Dad steered toward the house sale, asking about offers and timelines. I shifted gears smoothly. Before we talk numbers, there's something from Grandma's files the contractors uncovered. It involves her old clients. I opened the compiled audio playlist, volume moderate so words carried clearly. The first clip played Grandma's frail voice questioning irregular transfers, Dad brushing it off as market fluctuations. His face on the couch tightened, but he forced a chuckle. That's taken out of context. Mom was on heavy meds toward the end, hallucinations, confusion. We all saw it. Mom nodded beside him, reaching for his hand. Let's not dredge up painful memories. Your grandmother wouldn't want us fighting. I advanced to the next segment, bank routing details tied to Amara's credentials. Dad's denials grew sharper. Editing tricks. Anyone can fake audio these days. Amara sat, rigid eyes fixed on the screen. When a clearer exchange rolled, Grandma listing specific victim names, Dad admitting convenient access through her introductions, his posture changed. The charm cracked. He leaned forward, voice dropping to that manipulative tone I'd heard during family arguments. Fine, let's say some investments went south. Mom always favored Amara, shielding her from consequences, bailing her out. I had to build something for myself. Mom murmured agreement. Gertrude did spoil the baby of the family. It created resentment. She admitted quietly knowing about irregularities, but staying silent. Families protect each other. Exposing it would destroy us all. Dad's defenses crumbled into bitterness. She introduced me to those wealthy retirees, then acted shocked when I maximized opportunities. Using Amara's details was smart. She'd never noticed, too busy with her low-paying job and messy personal life. No one would believe her over me. He listed tactics proudly, now layering shell companies, timing transfers during market dips to mask losses, routing funds to his lifestyle upgrades. Those old people had more than they needed. I earned it. Amara's breathing grew audible, tears streaking her cheeks. I kept steady, guiding questions to draw more specifics: victim amounts, forged forms, deliberate credit sabotage. He boasted about the precision. Amara's clean history made perfect cover. By the time anyone looked, she'd take the heat. Mom shifted uncomfortably but added, I thought it would stay small. I didn't want the family name ruined. The room thickened with tension, childhood photos on the mantel staring down like silent witnesses. Dad's arrogance peaked. You think turning this over changes anything? Blood's thicker. I rose casually, walking to the window overlooking the driveway, prearranged signal. Headlights flashed twice from unmarked vehicles parked just out of sight. The front door opened without knocking. Agent Reyes entered, first badge visible, followed by 2 FBI officers in plain clothes. Carl Burke, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and elder financial exploitation. Dad's face went ashen as cuffs clicked. Mom gasped, clutching the couch arm. Amara stood, frozen, relief and horror mixing. Reyes recited Miranda rights calmly while officers secured the scene. No resistance, just stunned compliance amid the familiar surroundings where we'd once celebrated holidays. They led him out past the fireplace, past faded family portraits. Mom followed to the doorway, calling his name weakly. Amara and I stayed inside, the weight of years lifting and crashing simultaneously. The arrest unfolded efficiently, standard procedure for white-collar cases, no dramatics needed. Vehicles pulled away down the mountain road, leaving silence in the house that now felt irrevocably changed. The investigation stretched across many months, federal agents combing through layers of shell companies and offshore routing that Dad had buried deep. Prosecutors built an airtight case under the Elder Justice Act and wire fraud statutes, charging him with systematic exploitation of vulnerable seniors, a felony carrying steep mandatory minimums when victims exceed certain ages. The evidence from Grandma's files, combined with his own recorded admissions, left little room for defense. He accepted a plea deal to avoid a trial that could have added decades, 22 years, in a medium-security federal facility in Butner, North Carolina, with no early parole eligibility under current guidelines. Asset forfeiture followed swiftly. The Charlotte house, 4 bedrooms, manicured lawn, all purchased with diverted retirement funds, went to public auction through the U.S. Marshals Service. Luxury vehicles, investment portfolios, even collectibles from his office were seized and liquidated. Proceeds covered restitution first, nearly 88% returned to the 6 victims, averages in the hundreds of thousands each. Mrs. Whitaker received enough to restore her grandchildren's college funds and cover long-term care upgrades. Others rebuilt depleted nest eggs, some moving from worry about basics to modest security again. The government process dragged, but fairness prevailed. No full recovery, yet substantial justice. Mom chose loyalty to the end. She sold what little remained in her name, downsized to a small apartment near the prison, and attended every visitation allowed. Letters arrived occasionally, at first pleas, for understanding claims of remorse, but Amara and I returned them unopened. We blocked numbers, changed emails when necessary. No contact felt like the only healthy boundary. Amara's recovery started slow, but gained momentum. With fraud reports cleared from her record through the identity theft affidavit process, credit agencies removed the black marks. Her score climbed steadily. Within 18 months, she qualified for a modest FHA loan on a 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet Raleigh suburb close enough for sister support, far from old ghosts. Teaching preschool brought renewed purpose. Parents noticed her confidence, leading to a coordinator role with better pay and benefits. I shifted jobs too, taking a remote marketing position that let me relocate nearby. Weekends filled with helping her unpack painting rooms, building routines free from past shadows. The A-frame sale closed smoothly, proceeds split evenly after fees, providing her down payment cushion and my emergency buffer. Watching her sign closing papers, keys in hand for a place truly hers, marked the real turning point. Cutting ties completely wasn't easy. Holidays felt strange without extended family traditions, birthdays, quieter. But toxicity has no place in healing. Blood ties don't obligate endurance of betrayal. American culture values individual well-being alongside family and mental health professionals, emphasize no contact when patterns prove destructive. We chose peace over pretense. Looking back now, the hardest truth Grandma left wasn't just the evidence, it was the lesson in courage. She fought alone to shield us, sacrificing comfort for integrity. Amara and I honor that by protecting our future the same way boundaries, firm trust earned support unconditional between us. Some relationships can't be salvaged, and forcing them only prolongs pain. Walking away from toxic parents, even biological ones, isn't abandonment. It's self-preservation, a step many take for healthier lives. If there's one thing this taught me, it's that family isn't always defined by DNA. It's built on actions, respect, honesty. Amara and I created ours from scratch, stronger without the weight of deception. Victims regained dignity through restitution. We regained ours through truth. Peace came not from forgiveness forced too soon, but from accepting reality and moving forward unburdened.
1 year after losing both my grandparents, Grandpa suddenly to a heart attack. Grandma, after a long fight with cancer, I decided to renovate their old A-frame house in Asheville, North Carolina, to sell it. My sister Amara and I had inherited it, but taxes and upkeep were piling up. She wanted to keep it as a shrine to our childhood summers, but I pushed for updates to make it marketable. I hired contractor Tom Harland, whose team started in the loft, our old secret clubhouse with those big triangular windows overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains. One morning, while driving up the winding mountain road to check progress, Tom called. His voice was tense. "Ms. Burke?" We broke through a false wall in the loft and found a locked digital safe hidden behind it. "Your sister's name, Amara Burke, is engraved on top. You need to get here soon. But don't come alone." My stomach dropped. I pulled over, hands shaking, and called my parents and Amara. Vaguely saying something urgent about Grandma had come up. When we all arrived, we gathered in the dusty loft around the small black safe on the floor. No one spoke. It felt heavy, like whatever was inside would change everything. I tried codes, Grandma's birthday, Grandpa's, nothing. One wrong guess left. Then I remembered their wedding anniversary. Green light. It clicked open. Inside, a sealed envelope addressed to Kinsley or Amara. Open only if I'm gone. And a note with cloud login details. The letter was 3 pages in Grandma's shaky handwriting. She'd suspected our dad, Carl, of stealing from her elderly client's retirement funds. He'd used her trust to access accounts, then routed money through shell entities, all tied to Amara's name, social security number, and forged signatures. Grandma wrote, "Everything points to her identity. If investigated, Amara would be blamed. Protect your sister." I wanted to confront him, but cancer took me first. Tears hit as I read it alone first. She'd gathered evidence secretly while dying, scans, notes, recordings, but hid it to shield us. Later that night in Charlotte, I logged into the cloud folder. Blurry screenshots showed transfers from widow's nest eggs and veterans' savings, all masked under Amara's info. Audio clips captured Dad evading Grandma's questions. "It's just a placeholder account. Amara doesn't need to know." He'd systematically siphoned funds, using Amara as the fall guy. The next day, I met Amara at our favorite Asheville coffee shop. I showed her the evidence. Her face went pale. Suddenly, pieces clicked for her. Mysterious bank letters she'd ignored as scams, secret debts that tanked her credit during her divorce, making her ex think she was hiding money, leading him to leave. Job offers lost to fraud flags. Years of struggling as a single mom, blaming herself. "It wasn't me," she whispered, anger building. Dad sabotaged my entire life to cover his theft. In that moment, everything we thought we knew about our family shattered. The man